none of us is as smart as all of us. Chris and I started something which was a grassroots, volunteer-driven movement to bring people together. But we don't profess to have all the answers. The answers are in this room and outside of this room, and by working together, that's really what we want to do. We want to bring about change, either legally to defeat Section 24 or get the government to do a U-turn.
I've got a confession to make. I have a secret passion for homes under the hammer.
Uh-oh.
And, you know, time after time, you see them interviewing people on that programme. And they are ordinary, decent people who have a little bit of money and have decided to try and use that wisely to provide for themselves and their families. I would have thought they were just the sort of people that a Conservative government would want to support rather than bashing them.
I took the statements that were made by the government at face value. I trusted it. So there were two that stick in my mind. One, it would only affect the wealthiest landlords. So I thought, that's not me. And the other statement was that it would only affect higher rate taxpayers. And most of my income's taxed in the lower rate tax bracket. So I thought, again, that didn't apply to me. However, although that statement is technically true, what they failed to state was that it's going to move thousands of landlords from the low rate to the higher rate. In my case, in fact, I'm going to whiz straight through the high rate tax bracket into the additional rate over £100,000 of fictitious income. So I start to lose my personal tax allowance as well.
What your customer believes of you to be true is true until you change it. What the public believe about the tenant tax to be true is true until we change it. The journey you are on is a journey worth taking because the legislation that's been put forward is not fair. And that's the message to get across. This is actually not about landlords. This is all about tenants because fundamentally they are the end user. They are the person who's ultimately going to have to pay.
So the new government regulations are already sort of forcing us out of our current property, and we're at our canopy level in terms of what the rental sort of maximum price we can pay.
I'm 22 years old and I'm an office manager. I'm renting a property at the moment and have been since November 2015. If rent was to go up, we wouldn't be able to save for a mortgage at all. We'd have no spare money to kind of put aside to be saving for a deposit for a mortgage. So kind of sadly, the ultimate dream wouldn't exist anymore.
This is wrong. It is totally wrong. It is not only retrospective because property is an illiquid asset. People have planned for their future, their pensions because they've been trashed. Added to which, it's wrong for tenants. Most landlords just want to cover their mortgages, have the property looked after, and then hope that in 20 years' time they can sell up, put some money in the bank, or pay off their mortgages and get a decent income in retirement. They don't want to make huge amounts of money now. All they want to do is cover their costs, and that is preventing us covering our costs. We're effectively going to be taxed on turnover, and there is no other business that is taxed in the same way.
These are the consequences. Rent rises, evictions, less invested in refurbishment, repair and management, additional pressure on social stock, fewer new homes brought to the market, and less economic activity generally. So what, all those people that are falling out of the bottom of the market, what, they walk round to the top and rejoin all the empty houses? No, they end up going on the council waiting lists. And councils cannot cope. We know councils cannot cope already. They tell us many times. They've even told me that when the changes come in, it's going to be ruinous. This is one of mine. I'm proud of this house. A nice, clean, simple kitchen, plain floors, a bohemian-style curtain hanging off the rail. Beautiful, isn't it? Anybody would want to live in this house. They do now. After £25,000 of refurbishment, this is what I do with houses. I take them when they look like that, and I make them look like that. And I rent them to people. And people say that I'm greedy and selfish and I don't care about how my tenants live. If landlords have less money, then they can spend less with their suppliers and with the retailers. If landlords have less personal money, they will be spending less in the economy. If tenants have less money, they will be spending less in the economy too, and they will be finding it harder and harder to save for that all-important deposit to get themselves on the housing ladder.
I thought we were going to simplify an overcomplicated tax system anyway. Now we've got capital gains tax. Most people pay 20%. Oh, but buy-to-let property pays 28%. We've got stamp duty, land tax. Large-scale landlords don't pay it. Smaller ones do pay it. Well, this is completely crackpot. This government absolutely pledged to undo all that sort of thing, not to add to it. What is needed and what this is part of, and we want more of, is to stir up a really big movement. And the first thing is obviously to get plenty of good stories in the media, and I think plenty of stories actually pretty savagely attacking Osborne and the Treasury. I mean, I'm quite horrified to find that quite a lot of MPs didn't even know anything about it. But I think everyone, if you haven't done it, should be writing very stridently to your MP, briefing him very thoroughly and asking him what he's going to do about it, or him or her is going to do about it.
So that then led to a large number of other meetings. We've actually had 4 further meetings with the Treasury talking about this issue and stamp duty land tax, and also a brief discussion with the Chancellor. And in a couple of weeks, I'm actually going to number 10 to talk with the Housing Policy Advisor for David Cameron as well. A large number of backbench MPs have started to wake up to this issue and realise that actually it's not a very conservative policy. It's somewhat anti-conservative to go and find small business people and tax them more.
The effective tax rate is 233% on your profits. And that's the number that we want to home in on, to say that's the point to remember. 233% is absolutely ludicrous. It's catastrophic. We have to do something about this, and we have to show the numbers. I stood at the beginning and said we're turning basic rate taxpayers into higher rate taxpayers. And I also said that the government told us they're cutting taxes for working people. And I hope that those slides have just given you a small insight to the lies that they tell us when they stand before us.
We asked the question at the end of last year what people are going to do this year, and already people are anticipating putting their rents up as a result of the legislation. But what does that actually mean for tenants? 1 in 4 tenants would have to move. And the moving cost to tenants can be up to £2,000. And we've not even factored in things like the cost of physically moving your stuff, or the things you need to buy when you move into a new property, or any of that. We're just talking about the rent, the deposit, and your fees. If you're going to set out to demolish the buy-to-let sector, you need a plan that replaces it, or you just need a plan full stop. And it doesn't appear at this point this government has a plan that will sort out the housing situation in this country for tenants, for landlords, for the population in general, or for the benefit of the country.
The market, for me, in many ways, all of the challenges around the tenant tax and the mortgage interest tax relief will actually put a harder floor under rent. It's out to sort of 19%, nearly 1 in 5 houses in the UK is rented, forecast to grow to sort of 22 to 24% in the next 3 or 4 years.
It's not me saying that far from levelling the tax playing field, this policy puts a cliff face through the middle of it. It's the Institute of Chartered Accountants from England and Wales. It is not me saying that this is an undergraduate finance error which should not be made in the Treasury. That's Professor Philip Booth at the Institute of Economic Affairs. It's not me saying that this tax is plain wrong. It's the Institute of Fiscal Studies. Incidentally, that's the same Institute of Fiscal Studies that David Cameron was on TV News a couple of weeks ago saying was the gold standard of economic forecasting that every political party listens to.
These are the people that are the 97% of landlords in this country that don't even know they're a landlord. We're using very emotive terminology to make sure that he picks things up and reads it.
In order for our campaign to be successful, we need to reach out to that John Moore demographic of landlord, spread the message to him, get him engaged in the topic, get him contributing to the Fighting Fund, get him involved.
Steve and I launched our first crowdfunding campaign on Boxing Day at 1 a.m, and within 8 days we raised £50,000. You can see on the slide that we've raised another £80,000 in a very short space of time. And I think this demonstrates a level of strong feeling and support from those who are aware of the campaign. And together, we can raise a lot more money by spreading the word more widely. We all need to continue raising awareness. There are so many people I speak to on a daily basis that have still got no clue about this at all. Sleepwalking into disaster.
Yes, it's certainly a concern, and some of the commenters here today said that many landlords won't notice it until they come to do their tax returns in 2 or 3 years' time, and that is a great worry.
And our message has been very clear from the beginning. Let's work together. We're not here to set up a new landlord association. We're here to amplify the voices of those organisations that are lobbying, campaigning, and whilst we may disagree on certain strategies, the higher level, we all agree that this is bad for housing, this is bad for tenants, this is bad for landlords.
As a goodwill gesture to the campaign in recognition of our shared aim for fighting for landlords, The NLA has decided to donate £10,000 to the Campaign Fighting Fund.
We have given financial support, and we will give more. We've given research support in terms of providing research we've done with our members and wider to this to help support this, and we will give more.
Believe me, I've seen these campaigns run and I've seen them win. And it happens because you've got pressure coming from every angle. The legal case, the political case, the case in the media, all of those angles need to be hit at once. Taking that bridge from both ends, right? That's how we can win.
The more quickly we can build momentum, the more quickly we can build this coalition against these changes and make our case, the greater chance we have to overturn the changes.
Teamwork works. It's common knowledge, but it ain't common practice. The team as a whole is greater than the sum of the individuals they've been. We've seen the agency here, only one part of the team. We saw Sherry Blair and the team earlier on. We've seen so many people come up on the platform, but the team as a whole is greater than the sum of its individual parts. And so I just want to encourage you to find your way to be part and parcel of the team to really make that difference.
We need to keep fundraising. We've got plenty of time to do it, but we need landlords and others to come forward, keep pledging towards the campaign. And we're also launching a media campaign, PR, advocacy, lobbying today with a great company called Westbourne Communications. So people can choose, some people want to donate to the legal cause, some people want to donate to a media comms PR strategy to try and force a U-turn, some people are donating to both, but everything's welcome.
But today's true purpose is about you. Whether you are watching in this room or later on a screen, understand that you have the power and are called to safeguard an entire generation's dreams. The simple fact, though, is that it will require each of us to open our wallet. Even if you've already given, I ask, can you again put your hand in your pocket so we can empower the amazing team that is assembled to do what they do best? Brothers and sisters, this is our great challenge, and together we must rise to the test.